Oh no, we're not gonna go fit.
It's here.
What? Ah! This is probably all live right now. Hi guys.
Hi everyone.
Technical difficulties. Hi, I'm Dana.
I'm Ashley.
And this is A Dash of PT.
So I wrote a blog earlier this week on returning to running, specifically training for ultra post-baby. And so we talked to some of our current patients and fielded some questions, and Dana's going to share them, and then I will answer them as we go. So fire away.
Yeah, so I talked to all my mom clients this week, and I was like, all right, here's what's on the website right now. Mm-hmm. And we all kind of shared questions and thoughts, so I pulled them all together and I have them here for you. But my first question really is coming from me.
Sure.
And the blog that you posted this week was a really personal story. Mm-hmm. And what made you decide to share that with everybody?
Sure. So I think part of that for me was that when I decided to sign up for the Ultra, I was a little hesitant but very excited. And then I started training, and I have a great group of friends that I train with, but felt a little isolated just because I was, returning to running post-baby, and physically had started feeling really great. And then as training kind of went on, I was navigating these new obstacles that I hadn't had in the past.
Sure.
And so I just started kind of thinking about all of that and compiling it, and just wanted to write a blog to share, just so that other people could feel like, they have someone that they could go to when they're returning to running post-baby, whether that's right away or even down the line after a few kids, and just how I navigated it, and just maybe take some pearls of wisdom that I learned, but applying that to their own life, because obviously each situation's a little different.
Sure.
But just so that they felt like, there's someone else out there that, did this, that's not an elite athlete, but just likes to run. So
I think it's great, because we all know how things change so much after having a baby, and trying to get back into a sport, any sport, whether it's running or it takes sometimes a different approach and a different mentality. So I think it's great. It's something that we should be talking about, I think, more openly and all the time. One question that I did have, and you mentioned it in the blog, one of the moms asked, what was your biggest challenge with nutrition once you started returning to your training?
So when I did my first 50K, I learned a lot about what I needed for training. And then when I did this second 50K, I was following the same guidelines I had done the first time around with training, and really started to notice that I just wasn't as...
So your first 50K was before baby?
Yes,
right?
Yes. So with the second one, I just always felt very lethargic and tired, and like I really was putting a lot of effort into my training, and some of that had to do with heat, but I had battled that the first time around too. And then what I realized is that I probably was needing more nutrients and water and electrolytes, because I was now training and was still nursing, kind of weaning down on nursing but still nursing. And so those were things that I hadn't quite necessarily thought through. Even like organizing training runs around when I had to nurse or pump was kind of a new experience for me, but was part of the learning experience and figuring out what was going to work best for me. But I think the biggest thing was realizing I needed a lot more than I was actually giving myself. So
yeah, I think that's great. Mm-hmm. When you got back into it, you said that you had jumped right back into your old training program too. Sure. So the whole routine you tried to transfer over. Mm-hmm. I would imagine that your training program was different too. And actually that was something that another mom had asked. Was what changes really did you have to make your training program more successful for you?
So for me, I had to really, I actually removed one of my runs. So between work and momming, as I call it, I realized that trying to fit in 5 runs a week wasn't feasible, so my new goal was 4 runs, and they were going to be longer runs. And then I tried to fit in more strength training. So my first time around, I did strength training, but this time I focused almost equally on strength training as I did to running, because with it being on trails and with hills, I really wanted to feel stronger and be stronger. And so the biggest change I made was having to remove one of my runs, only because I just did not physically have enough time to hit all those runs but I did replace it with strength training, which was a little easier for me because I could manage when I wanted to do that, such as during nap times. So.
Sure. And really, that's something that we think is so important for a runner, whether you're on a trail or on the road or anywhere. But really, there should be a strength component to the training also. So
I talk about that all the time.
I hear you talk about it all the time. That's how I know it. So I think that that's great that you realized how important it was to your training as well. And then the last question that was posed to me is, I've had some parents, some moms who feel guilt about going back to their training because it does take a lot of time, especially when you're doing an ultra distance, and they feel guilt about leaving the family and taking time away from that. So how did you balance momming with your training?
So that was actually the thing that surprised me the most. So I knew I was going to love being a mom, but when I signed up for the ultra, I already knew what time it took to train, but I don't think I knew how I was going to react to that. So I had a really hard time, especially on long runs. So, to get to the local trail, it was like an hour drive, and then it's sometimes, 4 to 6 hours and you're driving back. And so that was challenging for me. And so I think really having the support of my husband and then just, family and friends and a strong support network, and just finding for me, it was finding, I had a lot of time with her during the week and the rest of Saturday and Sunday, and just reassuring myself that I wasn't missing anything, that this actually was good for me, a little bit of self-care, which I think is important for moms, and just a good stress relief, was just something I reminded myself along the way.
Yeah.
So.
And what a good role model you are then for your daughter too, by showing her that it's okay to take some time for yourself, because I think that's something that a lot of times we don't do enough of. So
and I think too, if you can, get a running stroller, which on Facebook Marketplace, there's always good options for that.
Sure.
But if you can do that and incorporate your children in the running, then it's, you're killing two birds with one stone. So
exactly.
I think it's just finding what's going to fit for your life and your routine with, your family the best, but you also have these running goals. And so it's finding what's going to work best for you, but also making sure to take care of yourself physically, like I mentioned. So making sure that your nutrition changes, like it might have to change, that you're taking care of anything that might feel sore, achy, and you're doing proper strengthening, especially for your pelvic floor muscles, which can be in another Dash segment too. But
I think that's coming up in a few weeks.
We're going to talk a little bit more about women's health and women's health with the female athlete. But all of that is part of kind of relearning your body after having a baby.
Sure. This was great. Yeah. This was great.
I like this topic a lot.
The moms in this clinic that we see all the time. We're really excited about this topic. So I appreciate you sharing your story and inspiring all the moms out there to get back into it, whatever it is that they love, and that there's ways to adapt and change and make it work, and get back to the activities that you enjoy doing. I don't think I have anything else on this one, do you?
No. And I think it's 2 weeks from now, Dana will be back.
With my favorite topic. Again, we're coming back to the concussion discussion again. Oh, I like that. That sounds good. The concussion discussion. Anyway, so we're coming back to that. This time we're going to dive into the symptoms of concussions, because there's so many of them, and it can be so bizarre, some of the symptoms that accompany them. So we're going to dive into that in 2 weeks.
Stay tuned.
Stay tuned, everyone. Thanks for joining us.